In the name of Allah. Alright everyone, in today's lecture, we're going to cover some really important topics about induction motors and how they behave under unusual or challenging conditions. First, we'll start with a quick introduction. Then we'll look at unbalanced three-phase voltages. Next up is open phase operation, which is basically when one phase is lost. After that, we'll talk about running motors at voltages that are too high or too low, overvoltage and undervoltage. Then we'll dive into harmonic voltage distortion. Sometimes we have to do a bit of improvisation, so we'll discuss running a three-phase motor from a single-phase supply. Next, we'll explore operation at different frequencies. Then we move into environmental effects, starting with humidity and fungus. Following that, we'll cover high ambient temperature conditions. We'll also touch on high-altitude operation. Finally, we'll discuss operating motors beyond design specs. And of course, we'll finish with a summary. So, buckle up. We've got a lot to cover. And by the end of this lecture, you'll have a solid understanding of how to keep motors running safely and efficiently, even when conditions aren't ideal. Okay, everyone, let's start with a quick introduction. We all know that induction motors are the backbone of so many machines, from pumps to fans to conveyor systems. But here's the thing. They don't always get to run under perfect conditions. Sometimes the supply isn't ideal, or the environment is challenging, or the motor is pushed beyond its normal limits. When that happens, these abnormal conditions can affect not just how the motor performs, but also its temperature and even the mechanical parts connected to it. In other words, it's not just an electrical problem, it can create stress throughout the whole system. So why do we care? Because understanding these unusual operating conditions is what allows us to prevent damage, avoid downtime, and make sure the motor runs efficiently and safely. Think of it as knowing the weak spots so you can protect them before they become a real problem. Alright, let's talk about what happens when a motor is fed with unbalanced three-phase voltages. Now normally, we want all three phases to be perfectly equal, right? But sometimes, for various reasons, the voltages aren't the same. Maybe one line drops a bit, or the load on the network is uneven. So what does this do to the motor? Well, it causes the torque inside the motor to oscillate. Imagine trying to spin a wheel and someone keeps pushing it unevenly. It wobbles, right? That wobbling torque puts stress not only on the motor itself, but also on whatever machinery it's driving. And here's an interesting point. These oscillating torques can sometimes resonate with the mechanical vibrations of the machine. Resonance is like when you push someone on a swing at just the right rhythm, it makes the swing go higher. In the motor, this resonance amplifies the stress, which can be really damaging if not controlled. The end result? The shaft, bearings, and connected equipment all experience extra stress. Over time, this can lead to wear, overheating, or even mechanical failure if we ignore it. So, the key takeaway is unbalanced supply voltages aren't just an electrical issue, they have a real mechanical impact too. That's why monitoring phase balance is so important in motor operation. Alright, let's move on to open phase operation, which is also sometimes called single phase operation. This usually happens right after the motor starts, and it's often caused by a fault in the supply network. Basically, one of the three phases disappears. Now when this happens, the two remaining phases suddenly have to carry all the current. Imagine a three-legged stool suddenly losing one leg. The remaining legs take all the load. The motor reacts in a similar way. The current in those two phases increases, which puts extra stress on the motor windings. But there's more. Because only one phase is operating, the torque inside the motor doesn't stay steady. Instead, it oscillates at twice the supply frequency. You can picture the rotor kind of chopping through the magnetic field in a weird way, roughly at half speed, which adds extra mechanical stress. Luckily, most motors come equipped with phase loss protection circuits. These are designed to detect when one phase is missing and take action, like shutting down the motor or triggering an alarm, so we don't end up damaging the motor or the connected load. So the key takeaway here is, losing a phase isn't just an electrical glitch. It affects current, torque, and the mechanical side of the motor. And that's why these protection systems are so important. Okay, now let's talk about what happens when a motor is operated at voltages that are too high or too low. basically above 10% over the rated voltage or below 90%. Starting with overvoltage, this one's pretty straightforward. If the voltage goes up, the current in the motor also goes up. Think of it like turning up the pressure on a water hose. The flow increases and everything gets a bit more stressed. The motor starts to heat up and the insulation has to work harder. Now, undervoltage is a little trickier. You might think that lower voltage would mean lower current, but that's not exactly what happens. At lower voltage, the motor still tries to produce the torque needed to drive the load, so it has to draw more current to compensate. Remember, the torque of an induction motor is proportional to the square of the voltage, so even small reductions in voltage can have a noticeable effect. This also affects slip, the difference between the synchronous speed and the actual rotor speed. As slip increases, the current rises even more, and the motor temperature climbs. So, undervoltage isn't just a mild inconvenience. It can actually stress the motor significantly, especially if the mechanical load is heavy. The key point to remember, both too high and too low voltage can cause extra heating and stress on the motor, just in different ways. Overvoltage pushes the current directly, and undervoltage forces the motor to work harder to produce the torque it needs. Alright, let's talk about harmonic voltage distortion. Now, ideally, the voltage supply to a motor should be a perfect sine wave, nice and smooth. But in reality, especially in modern electrical systems with lots of electronics, the waveform can get distorted. These distortions are what we call harmonics. So why do we care? Well, harmonics make the motor work harder than it normally would. First, they cause higher iron losses in the silicon steel core. That's basically extra heat being generated inside the motor. On top of that, these harmonic voltages push currents to circulate in unusual ways, which also adds to heating. If the harmonics are at high frequencies, the effects can get even more noticeable. They can increase dielectric losses in the insulation, which is basically the insulation getting hotter. They can also create oscillating torques and even generate audible noise, so sometimes you can actually hear the harmonics. Here's the interesting part. Induction motors naturally absorb some of this distorted power, which actually helps protect the rest of the electrical network. But there's a trade-off. The motor itself gets hotter, and that's something we have to watch out for. So in short, harmonics aren't just an electrical nuisance. They directly affect motor heating, torque stability, and noise, and we need to account for that in design and protection. Alright, now let's look at something that's a bit of a workaround, running a three-phase motor from a single-phase supply. Sometimes we don't have access to a proper three-phase network, especially in remote locations, so we have to improvise. Here's how it's usually done. We connect one of the motor phases directly to the single-phase supply. Then, the second phase is connected through a capacitor, which helps create a sort of artificial phase shift. The third phase is left disconnected. So, what happens inside the motor? Well, the flux in the air gap is no longer perfectly orthogonal, like it would be in normal three-phase operation. Because of that, the motor can't deliver full power. It's significantly reduced. Essentially, the motor behaves like a two-phase motor rather than a three-phase one. This method isn't ideal, but it works in a pinch. It's mainly used when a three-phase supply simply isn't available, and we just need the motor to run, even at reduced performance. So, the takeaway here is, you can make it work, but expect less power and slightly unusual motor behavior. Okay, next let's talk about what happens when a motor is run at a different frequency than it was designed for. This is actually a pretty common scenario, especially when equipment moves between countries with different power standards. For example, imagine we have a 60 Hz, 460 volt motor, and we try to run it on a 50 Hz, 380 volt supply. Now we can't just plug it in as is. To keep the magnetic flux in the air gap at the right level, we need to reduce the supply voltage proportionally. In this case, that would be roughly so. To adjust the voltage for the frequency change, we multiply the rated voltage, 460 volts, by the ratio of the new frequency to the original frequency. That's 50 divided by 60. Doing the math, 460 times 50 over 60 gives us roughly 383 volts. This adjustment helps prevent the motor from saturating and overheating. But even with this correction, the motor will rotate at a slower speed, about 5/6 of its rated speed, so the output power drops. Now let's talk about torque. The motor torque depends on the square of the magnetic flux and the slip frequency. When we change the supply frequency, the slip changes too, so the torque can vary. In other words, running at a different frequency affects both speed and torque, and we need to account for that in motor operation. So the key takeaway here, if you change the frequency, always adjust the voltage, expect a lower speed, and know that torque will be different too. Alright, let's switch gears and talk about environmental and thermal considerations. Basically, how the environment can affect motor operation. First up is humidity and fungus. Motors that operate near the coast or in very humid areas are especially vulnerable. The moisture in the air can cause fungus to grow on insulation or even on the motor body itself, which can lead to corrosion or damage over time. So, how do we protect the motor? A common solution is to install heaters with thermostats inside the motor. These heaters keep the motor warm, at least 45 degrees Celsius, when it's not running. By doing this, we prevent condensation, like dew forming on the motor surfaces, which is often the starting point for fungus. The key takeaway? Keep the motor slightly warm when it's off in humid conditions, and you drastically reduce the risk of moisture-related problems. Okay, now let's talk about motors running in hot environments. Think factories in the desert or anywhere the ambient temperature is high. Heat is a big enemy for motors because it stresses insulation and can shorten motor life. One way to deal with this is air cooling. Motors can be equipped with air blowers that force external air through the motor to keep it cool. But don't forget about filters on the air inlets. They need to be cleaned or replaced regularly. Otherwise, the airflow gets blocked and cooling becomes ineffective. Now, in really extreme heat, we have to take more serious measures. One option is to use motors with high thermal class insulation, like class F or H, which can tolerate higher temperatures without damage. Another option is water-cooled induction motors, where water flows through a cooling system connected to external chillers to remove heat. And here's an important safety point. These water-cooled motors need water flow sensors. If the cooling water stops flowing for any reason, the sensor triggers an alarm and can even cut the motor power automatically to prevent overheating. So, the takeaway, in hot environments, make sure your motors are properly cooled, whether by air or water, and always monitor the system to prevent overheating. Alright, now let's talk about high altitude operation. This is something people often forget. Air gets thinner as you go higher up, which means it's not as good at carrying heat away from the motor. So even if your motor has perfect cooling at sea level, at high altitude, it can overheat more easily. To deal with this, we use something called derating. Basically, the motor's rated power is reduced according to the altitude, following the manufacturer's guidelines. So a motor that can handle full load at sea level might only be able to safely handle, say, 90% of that load at a high altitude site. The key idea here is air cooling efficiency drops at altitude, and we have to adjust the motor's load to keep it safe. Okay, let's talk about what happens when we use motors in hot environments that are hotter than what they were originally designed for. Many motors are designed for moderate temperatures, say around 25 degrees Celsius. But if you try to run that same motor in a much hotter place, its performance starts to drop. A good rule of thumb is that the motor loses about 1% of its rated power for every degree Celsius above its design temperature. So, for example, if a motor rated for 25 degrees Celsius is running in a 40 degrees Celsius environment, it could lose roughly 15% of its power. That's significant. This is something engineers really need to consider when importing equipment, whether it's motors, generators, diesel engines, transformers, or even inverters, into regions that are hotter than the equipment's original design conditions. If you don't account for it, you risk overloading the motor, overheating, and reduced efficiency. So the takeaway, always check the ambient temperature rating of your equipment and adjust expectations or derate the motor if the environment is hotter than the design specifications. Alright everyone, let's wrap things up with a quick summary of what we've covered today. The main point is that abnormal operating conditions, like unbalanced voltages, open phases, harmonics, frequency changes, or extreme environmental factors can really affect a motor. They don't just impact torque and current, but also temperature, mechanical components, and insulation. So these aren't small issues. They can lead to serious wear or even failure if ignored. The good news is we have ways to deal with them. These include proper protection systems, adjusting the voltage or frequency, and managing the environment with things like heaters, air blowers, or water cooling. And don't forget derating for high-altitude locations or very hot climates. It's essential to keep motors operating safely. So, the takeaway? Knowing how these factors affect motors and taking the right precautions is the key to keeping your motors running efficiently and reliably, no matter the conditions. Thank you for your attention. See you in the next lecture.